You're watching GB News with me, Dawn Neeson. It is 1 o'clock on the 1st of March. Breaking news for you. President Trump has confirmed the death of the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, describing him as one of the most evil people in history. In response, Iran has announced a 40-day period of mourning, while its neighbour Iraq will mourn for 3 days. Iranian state TV has also confirmed the death of Iran's Army Chief of Staff. The country's top security official has said that the US and Israel seek to plunder and disintegrate Iran, with the country's parliament speaker calling leaders in the US and Israel filthy criminals. Ahmed Vahedi, pictured on the left, has been named new commander-in-chief for Iran's Revolutionary Guard, and Ayatollah Arafi has been appointed temporary supreme leader. President Putin has expressed his condolences over the death of the Ayatollah, calling the death a cynical murder. That's as North Korea are calling the Israeli attacks and the US military operation against Iran an illegal aggression. But the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has said that with Iran's supreme leader gone, there is renewed hope for the country's people. Meanwhile, the IDF has shared footage from their operations to dismantle the Islamic regime ballistic missile launchers. Since striking began, Israel have dropped over 1,200 pieces of munitions in Iran in the past 24 hours, and one British expat has been wounded in Oman after the Duqm port was targeted by Iranian drones. We can also reveal an oil tanker has been attacked near the coast of Oman and 20 people at the country's Maritime security centre, with 4 confirmed injured. Here are the latest scenes at the US consulate in Pakistan, showing locals protesting against the strikes on Iran. Multiple casualties have indeed been confirmed after security forces opened fire on pro-Iran protesters. Elsewhere, scenes of jubilation are filling the streets of Tehran after an end to the reign of the man who has ruled Iran with an iron fist for decades. Iran has unleashed a wave of missiles and drone attacks across the region, striking American allies and US military targets in Dubai, Doha, Manama and Kuwait City. The Israeli military say that the majority of serial defence systems in western and central Iran have been dismantled, and they intend to harm Iran's land-to-land and land-to-air missiles. And this is Dubai last night, with reports that not only 1 tourist hotels have been struck, but it's an international airport also. The world's busiest has also been hit by Iran. Roughly 250,000 Brits live in Dubai, and thousands more will currently be there on holiday. Meanwhile, US Central Command have released a series of images depicting their first 24 hours of Operation Fury. The US air defences have just intercepted a drone over US military base near Erbil Airport in Iraq, and businesses will be impacted as all vessels transits through the Strait of Hormuz have been suspended until further notice. OK, joining me now is the Israeli spokesperson in London, Alex Gandler. Alex, thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me. A seismic 2 days now, or 24 hours since this first started, not just for Iran, not just for Israel, not just for America, but for the world. Just can you give me your feelings on the developments overnight and what we are seeing this morning?
Yeah, shalom, Don. It is the second day of this momentous event. We've seen hundreds of rockets fly all over the Middle East, and that's what we expected from Iran. We knew that it's coming. We knew that Iran is meaning to threaten everyone when it will be under attack. But this was their plan all along. They wanted to be the big bully that threatens everyone. So we are now staying put and trying to take as much as we can in order for Iran to diminish its capabilities. And we understand that our neighbors across the Middle East are doing the same thing. I think everyone understands that this is quite a golden opportunity for the entire world to rid itself from the Ayatollahs and the Islamic regime. Just look at London, look at people, how they're celebrating. I hope we also open the door for Iranians in Iran and outside of it to start a new life.
Alex, can you just describe the mood for us in Israel at the moment? Are people very supportive of this action? What's going on? I mean, we know Israel itself has been absolutely bombarded overnight with even further drones and missile attacks.
Yes, unfortunately, I can report from the last minutes, 6 Israelis have been killed by a missile attack in Beit Shemesh when a missile had a direct strike on a shelter. So the shelters are good for when a missile hits close to them, but not a direct hit. So 6 Israelis joined 1 Israeli who was killed yesterday. Unfortunately, this is the price of war. Yes, Israelis, all in all, are very ready for this. We've been ready for this for many months. From June the 12th, from the June war last year, for the 12 days of war, and even before that, we knew that at some point we'll need to take care of this problem for ourselves, but for others as well. Iran has been a regional destabilizer, using rockets, nuclear program, the proxies all over the Middle East, and not just the Middle East, South America, Africa, and here in the UK as well, as you have probably noticed with Iranian threats and Iranian groups who are trying to terrorize people here in the UK. So it's quite an historic moment. Everyone is ready for this, and we're not going to stop until we reach those 3 goals: nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and freedom for the Iranian people.
Obviously, Israeli ambassador spokesperson in London. Now, what do you take from the UK government's reaction so far? How reassuring do you find Keir Starmer's response, initial response yesterday?
Well, this is an American-Israeli operation. It's a joint operation that we've decided to do against Iran. So we're handling it in that capacity, and this is the alliance that currently exists. We thank all regional partners and all global partners as well, who have taken a defensive role as well to defend the countries of the Middle East from rocket attacks and missile attacks from Iran. And you've probably heard that the UK is partly involved in that as well. So Israel and the United States will lead the way on this operation against Iran.
You almost sound, if you don't mind me saying, Alex, slightly dismissive of the British government.
Allow me not to speak in the name of the British government. I speak in the name of the Israeli government. We have a very strong alliance with the United States. This operation has been planned together jointly, and also being conducted jointly with the United States. There are other partners as well, but currently this is the situation for us.
And Alex, just finally, before we let you go, I just want to ask you, we saw protests in London yesterday. We obviously saw Iranians celebrating and partying in the streets, many in North London with the Jewish community. We saw the Israeli flag, the Union flag, and the Iranian flag, the old Iranian flag, flying and partying together. Many, many people celebrating. But Alex, we also saw pro-regime protests on the streets of London against Israel and America's behaviour. And at those protests, we witnessed British politicians. Can I have your response to that, please?
I think that protests that go against the people of Iran and their freedom are morally bankrupt. Any protest that supports the Ayatollah regime in Iran, the radical Islamic Ayatollah regime in Iran, is morally bankrupt. It's third worldism at its best. Unfortunately, some people can't make the difference and can't see the nuances of freedoms. They see only one freedom and their position to it. The people of Iran should be free. They should not wear headscarves because the regime told them to. They should not be barred from associating with women, with men. They should not be, the LGBTQ community should not be barred. Those people who are marching for the Iranian regime are, I hope inadvertently, marching for those restrictions. So completely morally bankrupt.
And Alex, how far do you think the tentacles of evil that was the Ayatollah's regime have spread into the United Kingdom and into London? We've seen many protest marches throughout London over the past year, certainly in relation to Gaza. We've heard some horrific chanting, we've seen some horrific images. How far, as I said, do you think the evil has extended into the UK?
I think Iran was very active here in the UK, trying to influence both. On a physical level, we saw terror gangs here trying to hurt the Jewish community, but also the UK as a whole, but also on the information level. Obviously, Iran has invested great resources into changing Western thought. We shouldn't be surprised. It's not something that is new. 1979, the Ayatollah was talking about it. It's part of the revolution of Iran, the revolution that Iran brings to the world. It's this information change that they're trying to bring into Western minds. And unfortunately, we saw it all too often in pro-Palestinian marches where Iranian flags were risen high because they knew who their backers are, and they showed their backers that they're helping them as well. So yes, unfortunately, this bankruptcy of the morality and of the mind has continued there as well.
Alex, thank you very much for joining me this morning. That is Israeli Embassy spokesperson in London, Alex Gander. Thank you very much. OK, and thank you for your company today, as always. I am Dawn Neeson. This is The Weekend. It's a very different show for you, obviously, as indeed yesterday's was. We are obviously covering all the breaking lines on the situation in Iran. We have some fantastic, amazing guests lined up for you. And what I want to concentrate on, as I did I tried to yesterday, because it is a weekend here. I know lots of you are sitting at home having your Sunday lunch. You're doing your normal weekend things. So I want to try and concentrate on less about what the politicians say, less about what the military experts say, but as so many of us are at home this weekend with our families, enjoying ourselves, doing the normal stuff we do at weekends, I want to concentrate on the human side of what's going on here. What it is actually, we've talked about the military, we've talked about the missiles. What is it like for Iranian families? What is it like for the Iranians that are exiled into the United Kingdom with loved ones still over in Iran, the suffering? In particular, as you all know by now, my thing is always about how are the women coping? What are the women doing? What about the women and girls of Iran? We know that women and girls in Iran have been killed for simply not wearing their headscarf in the right way. So I just want to concentrate. Forgive me if you don't want to do that, but I think it's important on the weekend, as we're all with our families, to talk about what is actually going on here. What is it like for the ordinary people? And I've got no one better to talk to me about that than protester, activist and Iranian dissident Vahid Beheshti. Sorry about mispronouncing of your name there. Vahid, thank you so much for joining me today. We had a chat before the programme started. Just want to talk about your story for now. Just introduce yourself and tell a little bit of what your story, what you have been through and what you have been doing in London for over 1,000 days now, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me in your show. And first, I would like to honour tens of thousands, my compatriots who sacrificed their lives in fighting with this regime just in recent uprising and in all these 47 years, not for themselves only. Now we're experiencing that they are fighting for all of us across the entire world. So, but I think every Iranian, if you look at them at this moment, they lost someone. And because the numbers that was published through the media was about between 40,000 to 50,000 death toll, but the numbers that we get from the ground is about 100,000 people and more than 500,000 wounded. So that's the answer of this brutal, barbaric regime to the people who are only asking for the basic human rights. The rights that no one give it to you and no one is allowed to take it off from you. When you're born with those rights, what to think, what to say, what to wear, how to organize your life, what kind of religion to have or not have a religion, or believe in God or not believe. This simple stuff, Iranians are fighting for that for 47 years now. So when it comes to myself, I experienced this. I lived this regime. My cousin, they have been executed. My family, they are on constant, because my family, they are living in Iran. And I am a well-known activist, when it comes fighting with regime. So they always under the constant pressure, torture, but I cannot give up this mission that I took for myself, because I cannot stay quiet. My cousin Arash Beheshti, 25 years old, was shot dead 8 weeks ago in Tehran. And my best friend, Ruhollah Zam, one of the best journalists I ever known in my life. I learned a lot from him. He wasn't only my best friend, my family friend, my cousin. She's married to Ruhollah. They kidnapped Ruhollah from France 4 years ago, took him to Iran through sham trial. After 1 year, they hanged him only because he was a journalist. He was a freelance journalist revealing the human rights violation in Iran and the corruption of the level of the corruption of the regime. He was revealing this stuff. So we are going through this, but now the good news is that these all are the bad news that we are now talking about it. But the good news, this regime is very weak now. They, particularly after October the 7th, they lost all the proxies now. They lost Syria. Syria was a very important hub for them. So they are very isolated. Then they lost all their legitimacy inside of Iran. And now we see the proper action taken against them by America and Israel, and I hope other countries like United Kingdom at least wake up and feel this is their call as well.
Vahid, you have been protesting on the streets of London for over 1,000 days now, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've been on hunger strike to raise awareness of the horrors of the regime that killed your cousin just a few weeks ago. I'm so sorry. How do you feel about the response that the UK government has had to what Iran has been going through over the last, well, all the time you've been protesting for a start?
So if I'm going to share my experience with you from the latest one, because today is the 1,102 days that we are protesting in front of UK government, and if I'm in the country, I am in front of FCDO. I sleep there 24 hours. I have a best family, I have a best house, everything. I left everything for 3 years in the street because I see this is a very important mission for all of us, because that stream of madness and craziness, the jihadi extreme, it's here in middle of our city, and we cannot stay quiet. But what your question was, what is my feeling when it comes to the government? My feeling is that we don't have a government at all. There is not any strength, there is not any policy in number 10 at all. Look, we are the only country in the world that we haven't prescribed IRGC yet. That the biggest terrorist organization in the world. What is the reason? This is the question. Because maybe if you listen to my interviews last year, 2-3 years before, I was saying our politicians, our policymakers are naive. I cannot say that anymore. No. Because...
Let's leave it there for now, Vahid. You're staying with me throughout the show. Thank you so much. I think it's so important that people hear your voice and bringing it home that you have lost family members. I mean, just a few weeks ago, you lost your cousin to this evil regime. OK, now let's get a quick update from Will Godley, who is covering the live breaking news coming into the studio. Will, what do you have for us?
Well, Dawn, thank you. Yeah, as we're looking at live pictures of Beit Shemesh, a city just 30 kilometres away from Jerusalem in Israel, emergency services on the scene there, and looking at a residential area with widespread destruction. That's after an Iranian ballistic missile struck a residential area there earlier today, and the emergency services have now revised the death toll after that strike, saying at least 8 people have been killed and dozens more wounded in Beit Shemesh. The ambulance service said 4 people were killed on impact of that of this ballistic missile strike, which you are seeing images now of that strike, the ballistic missile flying through the air. You can see the flames of the explosion, and this is one of the sites that was hit in the strike. This is a bomb shelter where people were sheltering from the strikes. The air raid sirens went off. The IDF said people were instructed, told on their phones to go and take shelter. And unfortunately, that's where a number of people have been pulled from the rubble, meaning that the death toll has now been revised to 8 after emergency services have pulled people from the rubble. And according to one report there, this strike caused extensive destruction, with several buildings damaged or partially collapsed. Firefighters, search and rescue units and military medics have been dispatched to the area, and also a helicopter is being used to evacuate the injured. We know that a 10-year-old girl has been seriously injured in this as well, and the ambulance service, Dawn, saying that 28 people have been taken to hospital injured in this attack, including 2 people who are believed to be in a very serious condition.
OK, Will, thank you very much. Will is staying with us throughout the show to bring you the latest breaking lines, as well as also covering the protests that will be taking place in London today. Will did a sterling job from there yesterday, and he will be covering that again today. So thank you for now, Will, very much. OK, now we do actually have someone in Dubai, which is one of the places that has been targeted by Iranian missiles and drones. Let's speak to GBNews producer Kundil Sadiq, who is in Dubai for us. Q, if I can call you that, that's what we call you in the office. You look safe, you look well. What's it like there for you?
Hi, Dawn. Yeah, I am safe and well. There's a lot of anxiety. There is a lot of panic. There is a lot of fear among all of those passengers that have been stranded here. Nobody knows what's going on. No one's being informed by any authority of what the condition is, where they stand. Are they going to be put onto the next plane? When the airports are going to open? No one has been in contact with any of the people that have been dispatched to various hotels around Dubai. At this point in time, there is nothing to say other than the level of panic, and there is so many people who are unwell, who are in need of serious medical attention, and there is no way of getting any sort of help. You're not allowed to leave the hotel, which I can understand. Periodically, those people that have got Dubai phone connections, they're being given warnings, high risk warnings that they should take shelter. People are running around in panic. We were given messages at multiple times through the night. There have been multiple, from what I've heard, multiple missiles have been intercepted in the area where there is lots of hotels, where there's lots of foreigners, and there is no knowing when the airports are going to open, when the flights are going to resume. It was supposed to open at 3 p.m. this afternoon local time, but we have just been informed that they will not be opening it for staff either, because of a second attack that took place this afternoon at the airport. And they're saying that if it is possible that tomorrow at 3 p.m. Staff will be called back to the airport. That is all I can give you for now.
Yeah. Q, I mean, when was the last alarm that went off for you? Is it quiet there now currently?
At the moment, it is quiet, but when we do get the warnings, you can hear them. It is frightening. We've had children screaming and crying in the lobbies. We've had parents not knowing what to do. The major concern, which I was worried about, is there's no access to any sort of medication here, because according to the laws here, as it is in most countries, you are not allowed to get any sort of medication unless it's been prescribed, unless you have a prescription. And there's people here who need heart medication. They've had heart surgery. They really need to get hold of that medication, and there is no sort of access, and there is nobody getting in touch with anyone to let them know or help them or assist them in any way. So there is a lot of panic. You cannot be prepared for such things. I do understand that, but at the same time, when people go and ask for help and they're like, you need to support us, the only answer they get is, this is war. We are at war. Nobody is responsible for anything. They are just saying that if you're in a moment of war, it's everyone for themselves. We're not getting any sort of. We're just literally sitting there and praying. Most people are too scared to go up to their rooms because they're massive buildings, and it will take you forever to actually reach the lobby and take shelter. So most people are crowded in the lobbies. I will send you some more pictures in later on today of the condition inside the hotel. Everyone is just at edge. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It's really hard for a lot of people to actually stay in touch with their families because there is limited connectivity. WhatsApp calls, video calls are blocked in the whole of Dubai. You cannot make a video call or a phone call over the Wi-Fi to people. So it's really hard for people to reach out to their loved ones right now.
And Q, when were you meant to be flying home?
I actually landed as the first missile crossed, and the way the pilot landed the plane and the way he swerved around, I could tell something was going on. I usually have very smooth flights, and I sensed the anxiety literally before I landed. And upon landing, the look on the faces of all the staff at the airport, and I was supposed to just be in transit for about an hour and a half, and I was looking at the board, and they just started flipping, and they went cancelled, 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 cancelled. It was just a whole flow of cancelled airlines. I ran to the desk. I'm like, can someone tell us what's going on? And they said, there's no flights. There's absolutely no flights. We can't say anything now. There was panic. There was people running around through all the lounges. There was people with mobility issues, and there was no wheelchairs. People were it was the most hectic situation, I could tell you. There was so much panic. We were all loaded into coaches, and the coaches were sent off to various hotels. At one point, they ran out of hotels. They said, we have got no more hotels, and we have to evacuate the airport. They literally had coaches parked outside of the airport with passengers refusing to leave. We left the airport, and 20 minutes later, there was a strike on the terminal, and people are just shattered. They are just so lost. They don't know. I mean, you always hear about it, but are you going to be in the center of it? No one ever thinks they are going to be in the center of it. You hear them, they scare you. It's really, really frightening. And I really feel for the families. I really feel for all the young children, all the helpless parents, and all the elderly who are stuck in this. It's just, it's a lot of uncertainty. I do hope that by the end of today, there should be some sort of clear picture about what's going on, when the airports are actually going to open. Are they going to resume flights? It will take a long time because they're not prepared for such situations. There's no knowing whose baggage is where. First, they're going to get all the staff back at the airport. Once they get the staff back at the airport, there will be the process of finding out which airlines were supposed to be going where, which hotels they have dispatched the passengers to, what their further destinations are going to be, and then go through the process of booking those flights, getting in touch with them.
Q, thank you so much. Stay safe, and wishing everybody well out there. That's GB News producer Kundal Sadiq, who is in Dubai. She was hoping to start a dream holiday, and she is now stuck in the hotel and not knowing when the flights will start. As you can see from that image we were showing on your screen just now, you can see the airspace over Iran is completely empty at the moment. There are no flights going anywhere near there at the moment. Will has been gesturing to me from the corner. Will, some more breaking news for us.
Yeah, we've just had an update from the UK Maritime Trade Operations, who have said just in the last couple of minutes, Dawn, that they've received a report of an incident 17 nautical miles northwest off the coast of the United Arab Emirates, just before the Strait of Hormuz, saying the company security officer reported that a vessel there has been struck by an unknown projectile causing a fire. They've said that fire has now been extinguished, and the vessel is intending to continue on its voyage, but authorities now investigating how this happened, the cause of it. This unknown projectile, most likely, of course, an Iranian drone. The UK Maritime Trade Operations have advised the vessel to proceed with caution.
It is quite fascinating, Will, the numbers of countries now and areas that have been targeted by Iran. 11 countries. The latest one we heard this morning was Cyprus. 2 missiles were fired in the direction of Cyprus. Didn't actually make landfall, thankfully. But obviously there's a huge British base on Cyprus.
Absolutely, yeah. In Akrotiri, a big RAF base there as well. And that's actually caused a bit of a kerfuffle with the Cyprus authorities, because they've since clarified, saying that there was no missiles directed towards Cyprus. The people of Cyprus do not need to be concerned. They are not at risk. That's after comments John Healey, the Defence Secretary here, made earlier, saying missiles were directed towards Cyprus. So perhaps some confusion there, difference of perhaps an interpretation of where these missiles were going, but ultimately they didn't reach Cyprus.
Which is a good thing, because if it does, then we are dragged into it properly. At the moment, our Prime Minister has said that we are taking part. We have British RAF planes bringing down drones, but we're not actually taking part in any attacks. We are being used defensively. But obviously, if Cyprus and the airbase there is hit, that will change. So let's get a part of the political side of what's going on now. Joining me is the Shadow Foreign Minister, Wendy Morton. Wendy, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. Wendy, firstly, just your initial reaction to the, quite frankly, astonishing last 24 hours.
I mean, astonishing, I think, is a really good word of describing it. I mean, it feels like a very fast and fluid situation. And I think, as we've seen just today in your news clips just now, you know, it's the regional context here. And I think that the consequences of this for the region could be absolutely huge. And so I think that's why, for me, I think that, you know, Britain can't sit on the fence on this one. You know, we have got military assets that we need to protect. We've got British nationals in the region. There are also people who are travelling. You know, we're talking about the Middle East. There are some really important transit hubs used by the airlines. So I think people are rightly concerned. They're worried. And just this morning, we were hearing that the Foreign Office website had crashed. So, you know, people want information. And I've been a Foreign Office minister. I know what it can be like. But you know, our British nationals need support.
OK, and Wendy, we keep coming back to many people here are worried about their friends and families, obviously on holiday in the Middle East at the moment, certainly in Dubai. We have a brilliant guest in the studio who has a family in Iran itself. Many people are angry at the British government's response. It was very wishy-washy initially, and then obviously there was a Cobra meeting yesterday, and Keir Starmer came out after that and said, we are taking part in a defensive way, we're not taking part in any attacks. But still, a lot of people are angry about the way the British government has reacted to this, and also to the threat of radical Islamism in the UK.
And I think people are right to be angry, because we're yet again seeing that the government is sitting on the fence, which was the point that I made earlier. I mean, let's be absolutely clear here. The US have made took the decision to make those strikes. Kemi has come out very strongly and said we stand with the US, but the British government is being, very, very wishy-washy on this. And that we cannot afford to see that. We need to see some stronger leadership from our government. As I said, this, let's be really quite clear here. This situation could have, and as we're seeing now, is having regional consequences, and it is impacting on British citizens, British travellers, and we do have some very strategic key military assets that are crucial to our interests too.
Yeah, and I just also want to talk to you, Wendy, if I may, about the situation in Pakistan. We have witnessed this morning the American embassy in Karachi being attacked by a very, very angry mob. We understand there have been fatalities there as the security forces tried to calm that uprising down. Is the UK prepared for an angry reaction on American embassies in this country?
Well, I think the people that that really need to be answering these questions are our own government. And as a member of the opposition, these are exactly the sort of questions that we do and we will continue to ask. Often we get very wishy-washy replies, but I do think, we need to see much stronger leadership coming out of our government time and time again. It's just not what we're seeing, and that needs to change. But I think, unfortunately, for the sake of the country, we've got a Prime Minister who is very, very weak, fighting all his internal battles, when actually there are some really serious issues that need tackling both at home and internationally.
Yeah, talking of internal battles, obviously this week we saw the Gorton and Denton by-election in Manchester, where the Green Party won a resounding victory, obviously over the Conservatives and over Labour. But we also saw yesterday the deputy leader of the Green Party, Mohsin Ali, at the London protest against the behaviour of Israel and America and supporting the regime, the Islamist regime in Iran. Why is a British politician at a rally that supports a regime that declares death to the West and the UK, England?
Again, I think these people need to answer some serious questions. Being a member of Parliament, being a politician is a really, really serious task, and with it comes a huge amount of responsibility. So I would put that question firmly at the doorstep of that individual. But I do think we deserve better.
There are also there's a story in the Telegraph today about various Islamic charities in this country, which are basically covers for the Iranian regime. They need to be investigated further. Several MPs have raised this issue and are intending to raise it when Parliament gets back tomorrow. Are you concerned about the rise of radical Islamism in the UK?
I think we have to take this really, really seriously. We just had issues in the by-election up in Gorton and questions being asked about the election process there. So it is right and proper that we ask the questions. In terms of just going back to that by-election, I know that James Cleverly wrote straight away to the Electoral Commission to raise concern. Now, I'm really proud of what we have in this country, but it is about being fair, and it's the freedoms that we enjoy. And it's actually also recognising that, there are certain things around elections that are absolutely sacred. Women didn't go out to fight for the right to vote for no reason whatsoever. So there are some serious issues. And again, I think it's time that our government actually took a reality check and faced up to some of these.
OK, thank you very much for now. That's Wendy Morton, who is the Shadow Foreign Minister. Of course, as always, this programme is about you and your views and opinions as well. So please do get in touch, gbnews.com/your say, and comment on whatever you want. I mean, it's a Sunday afternoon. If you want to talk about something else, I'm here to do that as well. But obviously, we have so many breaking lines coming in on this story. And certainly, if you have friends and relatives who are on holiday in the Middle East at the moment, moment in Dubai. You've just heard from our producer Q's out there. Or indeed, you have friends, family who are in Iran at the moment. What are their thoughts? What are you feeling for them? OK, let's go back to my studio guest. That's Vahid Beheshti. Vahid, thank you so much for staying with me. Now, you have been campaigning to raise awareness of the evilness of the regime in Iran for a long time now, putting your own personal health at risk as well by sleeping on the street to protest, etc., etc. Exactly how, sum up for us, you know, people living comfortably in the UK at the moment, how evil is this regime?
This is very, very important question, and I really appreciate that you raised this question. Look, when we are talking about the level of the evilness of the regime, we have to go back to the ideology of the regime. So this is not the system that driven by politics, but driven by ideology, an evil ideology. What is this evil ideology? The core of this system is that they believe they have a divine mission in order to destroy the modern global order, democratic values, as they call it, Westernism, and replace it by Islamic Caliphate, even their own version of Islamic Caliphate. And this is their foundation. And I am not revealing anything. If you just listen to the speeches of Ali Khamenei in all these 47 years, the other leaders of the regime, they are talking about this blatantly. If you read the mandate of IRGC, they said, our mission is to export the ideology of the regime. So this ideology is not limited to Iran's border. That's why you see all this investment in brainwashing our youth. Look what they done to our youth in Europe, in America. Look what they done to Syria. They killed more than 500,000 people in Syria in order to keep Bashar Assad in power, because Bashar Assad was their allies. So they destabilized the whole region. They took their own people hostage for 47 years, killed tens of thousands of their own people. And remember, this is the regime that for 47 years, in all their gatherings, official and unofficial, they chanting death to America, death to Israel, death to United Kingdom, always, and death to, in total, Western civilization. So imagine this ideology armed with nuclear weapon. If this ideology, if this system is slaughtering their own people in that level of barbarism, what they're gonna do, for example, to you as someone who from Europe, which they always chanting death to you. So what they are, President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu are doing, it was an easy decision for them to go through all this international pressure, all this cost, but they understand, from my point of view, the ideology of the regime very well. They know there is not any way than this way to confront this regime. Imagine, just see how many negotiations the West and international community had with this brutal regime in past 47 years. So they have a belief that they can win any negotiation, but they lost all the wars that they participate. Because the moment they are sitting around one table to negotiate with you, their negotiation is based on deception. They are sitting there to deceive you. That's how they're getting through. And that's the only way, I think, to confront them. And just look what happened yesterday. Let me describe the feeling of some of Iranians. What Iranians gone through in past 24 hours, it's you cannot describe it in any way. They were waiting for this news, the death of this creature, I don't even call it human, who slaughters their children, rape our beautiful girls and boys in the prison and then hang them, to break them. So the level of the brutality of Ali Khamenei, it's something beyond any kind of imagination. And now Iranian people, they woke up this morning with the news of Ali Khamenei is not there anymore. You had to see the images yesterday from Iran, my dear. It was the people were dancing, chanting. They lost their loved ones 8 weeks ago, but they were so happy. There's this stream of happiness, you could feel it from far away, what they are experiencing. It's not going to be easy, what we are going through this dictatorship, to establish a new secular democratic system based on human rights and law, but that's the only way.
Vahid, we'll leave it for now and we'll come back to you. Thank you so much for now. Vahid is staying with us. So if you've got any questions for Vahid, at gbnews.com/your say, and I'll put them to him. And, you know, that's what we're here for. If you've got any worries, any questions, we're here to try and answer them for you. OK, joining me now is Israeli resident Daniela Fisher-Dixon, who I believe has just come out of a bomb shelter. Daniela, it looks like you're still in a bomb shelter, actually. What's happening?
In and out almost every hour in the last more than 24 hours by now.
And Daniela, you obviously in Israel, you have been targeted by, I've lost count of how many missiles and drones over the past 24 hours. Sadly, lives have been lost. What is the feeling there at the moment? I mean, are you jubilant that this action has been taken against Iran, obviously a long-term sworn enemy of Israel, or are you a bit worried now about what the future holds?
I think, I don't know, we are used to, unfortunately, to be worried about the future for the last over 2.5 years since the horrible attack of Hamas on our innocent citizen and slaughter them. And since then, we've been actually on and off all the time in war. But I want to talk in behalf of my friends, of my community here in Ramat Aviv. We're mainly very, very sad because all of those lives lost in Israel, of course, right now this year, in Iran, everywhere in the world, because we would like to have peace. We'd like all this hatred and all those massacres to stop and finish. That's our wish.
And Daniela, are you confident that this is the first step towards that, towards a more peaceful future for Israel?
Unfortunately, not so much. Of course, the regime, the Islamic regime of Iran, as the previous talked about, is definitely very, very brutal, definitely full of hate and aiming to destroy Israel, the states, and the West. Unfortunately, in our side as well, almost also in our government, we have our own extremists that have, on behalf of extreme ideologies, also some very not so much peaceful ideas. And not everybody trusts in Israel as well, our own government, unfortunately, because of more political and personal reasons. But we just hope that there'll be a change.
OK, Danielle, thank you very much. That's Israeli resident Daniela Fisher-Dixon, who is in and out of the, as you can see there and hear from her, the bomb shelter, which is unfortunately all too common occurrence in Israel at the moment, isn't it? OK. As I said, this show is the weekend. It is your weekend. I mean, as we're here sitting in comfort in the UK, going about our ordinary Sunday business, it's important, I think, to to get to the nub of what's really happening here. We've discussed the military aspect of it, you know, what drones are being used, what aircraft carriers are where, the Strait of Hormuz being shut down, what it means to the oil industry. But I also want to concentrate on what it's like from the human aspect, and what it means going forward for the ordinary people of Iran and the ordinary people here in the UK. I think it's so important. So if you'd like to get involved in that conversation, please do at gbnews.com/your say. Now, it is a complicated issue. It's an issue that's been going on for not just decades, but centuries. So let's talk to Middle East expert and author of Regime Collapse in Iran, Barak Sina. Barak, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we sit here like, you know, it's an incredibly complicated part of the world, a very complicated situation that's been going on not just over the last 24 hours, it's been going on for hundreds of years, basically, hasn't this situation? So just tell us a bit about your reaction to what has been happening over the past 24 hours, and is it a good thing?
I think more broadly than Iran, if we look at the axis of resistance made up of Russia, China and Iran, this is a massive setback for these anti-Western forces. I'll give you an example. At an operational level, you had Iran that had the domestically produced Arman anti-missile ballistic system, and you also had the Chinese-made HQ-16 and HQ-17AE and air defense systems. Now, they did nothing to prevent Israel from establishing air dominance over Iran. So despite the fact that you have these autocratic regimes like China that are creating these missile defense systems, these air defense systems, you see that actually, if I was a procurer of these items, I would be calling up the CCP and saying, I want my money back. So it really does humiliate them and set them back technologically, logistically, and strategically.
They seem to have an awful lot of missiles and drones to still carry on firing. I mean, I think it's 11 countries in the Gulf have been targeted already.
Yeah.
Some of them constantly. We're just speaking to that lady in Israel who has sort of like literally been in a bomb shelter for the last 24 hours.
I mean, this attests to the nature of the regime. The regime doesn't prioritise offering infrastructure, resources, opportunities for the people. It has basically created a black market fortress economy for its IRGC beneficiaries, alienating the public at large, becoming more oppressive to sustain this, and all their money they either send to their terrorist proxies like Hamas or Hezbollah, or towards their sort of nuclear program, ballistic missile program. So you can just see where the priorities are for such a repressive regime.
And this is an oil-rich country. In theory, it should be an incredibly wealthy country. But sky-high rates of inflation, people starving. I mean, that's before you even get to the torture and, the prisoners that are being, tortured and murdered, hung from cranes. So it should be a rich country, but the ordinary people of Iran, and it's 91 million, the population, aren't wealthy. They're not doing well.
I think it goes further than that. It's not simply a resource-rich country. The Iranian people are incredibly sophisticated. You're talking about an ancient culture, an ancient civilization, highly educated, pro-Western in its orientation, and they have been repressed. It gets more complicated because around 40% of the Iranian public are not Persian. They are ethnic, whether they be Azeri or whether they be Kurds, etc. There's multiple ethnicities. They feel also alienated from the regime. There's been enormous impoverishment purposely fostered by the regime in their peripheral communities. What you have 20% of the officer corps of the army, the senior officers that are ethnic, they are not Persian, and you have around 40 to 50% of the public who aren't Persian. So when this falls apart, right, there'll be enormous retribution. You will have surrounding states. Think of it. Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria. They may want to have a territorial chunk of Iran. They may want to extend their sphere of influence via these sort of ethnic secessionist groups. So while we're focusing at the moment now on toppling the regime, there's enormous complications that happens because the regime has artificially kept this diverse and sophisticated society together and in a repressed manner.
I feel like I've heard that before with several other Middle Eastern conflicts.
Yeah.
None of which ended well.
Look, there's other things as well you see, whether it be Syria, whether it be Libya. You've got rivaling security services that are outdoing one another. So in order that the regime's power will remain intact, totalitarian regimes, they all behave in exactly the same way, whether it be Nazi Germany in the West or whether it be Middle East totalitarian regimes. They're all exactly the same. I just want to bring this historical analogy. Hitler, he purposely he created rivaling factions of the Third Reich from undermining one another in order for him to retain his supreme command. What ended up happening is an organization like the SS, it had its own banking system. You had then Himmler, reaching out to the West, wanting to have a peace deal with the West, going behind Hitler's back. So what is created as a rivaling architecture to prop the supreme leader up is also exactly that which creates a vacuum and can topple the regime itself.
Okay, so Barak, it sounds like a very, going forward, I mean, we have a vacuum, we have a power vacuum, and as we all know,
messy.
Nature doesn't like a vacuum. It fills it and often fills it with something even worse. Is this a situation that when the dust has settled, the immediate dust has settled, that at some point there is needed Western boots on the ground to ensure a smooth transition?
I don't think there's any appetite for Western boots on the ground. Nobody suggested it, especially not transactional or so-called isolationist US administration that has still intervened in Iran now multiple times. So they're not as isolationist as we thought, but they're not going to commit to ground troops. Israel hasn't at all said that it wants ground troops. It doesn't want to commit its armed forces on the ground. Because you've got such a sophisticated population and a whole variety of opposition groups, you want to be able to, in advance, coordinate between these different groups. Some of them are Republican, some of them are monarchists, some of them focus on social issues, some of them focus on economic policy. But as I wrote in my report, Regime Collapse in Iran, a necessity for regional instability, what you want to have is a coordinated effort. Offer them communication resources to streamline their operations. Give them the ability to coordinate with one another, coalesce even, in order to have as limited a vacuum as possible for the day after.
And the axis of evil, Russia, China, they've both obviously come out to condemn America and Israel, as they would, of course. But there is a vacuum now in this part of the world, in Iran. It's a big country, there's a big population, you said a very diverse population. How dangerous could Russia and China be in this situation? Is it a vacuum they could attempt to fill?
Look, Russia, I think, has no capabilities whatsoever. They have been blocked out of Syria. The Assad regime fell, which Putin was propping up. And the reason for that simply was Russia was overstretched in Ukraine. It couldn't focus on Syria. That was also a huge blow in turn for Iran, that wasn't able to extend its sheer crescent across the region. It had been blocked now. So I don't think that Russia has many capabilities. This is a massive setback for the axis of resistance. Russia doesn't have the capabilities. It really is sort of bogged down in Ukraine. China can attempt to. We saw there in the couple of years since the October the 7th massacre that China really wasn't that involved in the region. It was making public pronouncements. It's focused very much on creating economic ties with the Gulf. China does not want to alienate its Gulf states allies that it wants to have a Belt Road Initiative go through these Gulf states. So if I was China, I would be thinking, how do I tread this very, very cautiously, make public pronouncements, but don't commit any assets? The only things that I will commit will be the supply of weapon systems to the Iranian regime. But then, to what extent is that sustainable? China also has to be concerned that Iran exports 90% of its oil to China. It needs to diversify badly.
Yes, and just quickly, we are running out of time, unfortunately, Barry. A quick comment on what role the UK plays in this, if any.
Look, what I think is pretty shameful is the UK touts itself as a middle power. The UK is now an irrelevant power. The UK wasn't at all consulted prior to the initial 12-day war. It sought to disrupt America's intentions to commit. So I don't think the UK is in place.
Barak, thank you very much. That's Barak Sina there for you. Thank you. You're watching GB News with me, Dawn Neeson. It's 2 o'clock on Saturday, the 1st of March, and happy St David's Day. OK, breaking news this hour. Dramatic strikes are continuing across the Middle East. In the last hour, Israel has confirmed the death of 8 of its citizens following an Iranian ballistic missile strike on the town of Beit, Shemesh. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has this morning threatened to hit Iran with what he calls unprecedented force. His warning comes after Tehran vowed to escalate retaliation for the killing of its supreme leader and launch successive volleys of rockets at Israel for a second consecutive day. Meanwhile, the Israel Defense Forces have continued to carry out strikes on military sites across Iran, including a massive blast in Tehran. The army announced that it had dropped over 1,200 pieces of munition in just over 24 hours that kicked off on Saturday morning with a strike that killed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and top officials. Iranian officials are scrambling to reassert control. Ahmed Vahidi, pictured on the left, has been named the new commander-in-chief of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Ayatollah Arafi has been appointed temporary supreme leader. In the last few moments, Downing Street has confirmed the Prime Minister has held a call with the King of Bahrain, the Crown Prince of Kuwait and the King of Jordan this morning. He reiterated that the UK has had planes in the sky since yesterday as part of the coordinated defensive response. Meanwhile, President Putin has expressed his condolences over the death of the Ayatollah, calling his death a cynical murder. And that's as North Korea are calling the Israeli attacks and the US military operation against Iran an illegal aggression. But the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has said that with Iran's supreme leader gone, there is renewed hope for the country's people. Elsewhere, one British expat has been wounded in Oman after the Bukham port was targeted by Iranian drones. We can also reveal an oil tanker has been attacked off the coast of Oman. 20 people at the country's Maritime security centre were caught in the strike and 4 are confirmed injured. Here on your screens now are the latest scenes at the US consulate in Pakistan, showing locals protesting against the strikes on Iran. Multiple casualties have been confirmed after security forces opened fire on pro-Iran protesters. Meanwhile, last night, scenes of jubilation filling the streets of Tehran after an end to the reign of the man who has ruled with the country with an iron fist for decades. Iran has unleashed a wave of missile and drone attacks across the region, striking American allies and US military targets in Dubai, Doha, Manama and Kuwait City. The Israeli military say that the majority of aerial defense systems in western and central Iran have been dismantled and they intend to harm Iran's land-to-land and land-to-air missiles. And these were the scenes in Dubai last night on your screens now, where one person has been confirmed killed and 11 injured following attacks on airports in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. In the last few minutes, we have had a statement from Downing Street. The Prime Minister spoke to the King of Bahrain, the Crown Prince of Kuwait and the King of Jordan. He expressed the UK's solidarity in the face of dangerous Iranian escalation, which has seen indiscriminate missile and drone attacks launched at their countries in the last 24 hours. They discussed the safety of civilians in the region, including British nationals and armed forces personnel, and expressed deep concern that strikes have hit civilian and commercial infrastructure, harming innocent people. He reiterated that the UK has had planes in the sky since yesterday as part of the coordinated defensive response to protect our partners in the region and will continue to offer support. OK, joining me now is a leader of the opposition in Israel, Yair Lapid. Yair, thank you for joining us. Good to see you. Firstly, can I just get your initial reaction to the past 24 hours? What has happened?
Well, I want to correct one point in your breaking news. You said there are 8 wounded, killed. Oh, this is so unprofessional of me. You said there were 8 killed in the city of Beit Shemesh from the missile hit. It is actually 9, and dozens of wounded, so many of them children, because this is what we're dealing with. I can say that, I mean, the Americans and us went to this operation with 3 goals in our heads. One is to make sure that the ballistic missile attack program of Iran is obliterated. The other one is the nuclear facilities and the nuclear program is obliterated. And the third is to create the conditions in which the people of Iran can take their own destiny into their own hands and change this regime, because this regime, it's not even a government as the way we think of a government. It is a terror organization who took over an ancient culture and a country that could be, under different circumstances with different leadership, extremely interesting and powerful, and still can be. So right now the operation is doing what it was supposed to do. On the other hand, we are attacking military sites and operations and military leaders, and they're of course trying to bomb civilians and kill as many civilians as possible. And unfortunately, a couple of hours ago, this succeeded in the city of Beit Shemesh.
And what is the mood in Israel at the moment? Are people generally supportive of this joint attack that Israel has launched with America?
Well, with the risk of not being too modest, I will give myself as an example. I am, as you know, the leader of the opposition. And I think I've earned the title, the most bitter rival of Netanyahu, and yet we stand united on this one. And I don't think we stand united on anything else. I mean, I think it's the right operation. I think the people of Israel all understand this as an existential threat, because we have followed what the Iranians have been saying all along, that they want a nuclear bomb in order to drop it on Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, that they want a ballistic missile program because they want to shower our country with missiles. And we understand that what we're doing now is the right thing, and this is, maybe we should have done it years ago, but what we're doing now was inevitable and important, and we all stand united in this. There's no coalition and opposition. Everybody stands together.
And why wasn't it done years ago?
It's a good question. But right now, instead of looking to the past, I think what we have to look at is the unbelievable opportunities that are now opening all throughout the region, and especially for the people of Iran. As you remember well, only a month ago, I mean, in the beginning of January, they were killed by the 1,000 approximately. President Trump has put on the table the number 32,000 people who were killed by the regime just because they demanded freedom and women's rights. Now they're talking about international law and how is it that they've been attacked. This is not by international law. Where was the international law when you were killing your own people by the 1,000? So hopefully we see another future for the region and for the people of Iran.
But there is a vacuum at the moment. I mean, you know, the IRG are, those that remain are incredibly well armed. Iran is still firing missiles and drones into Israel, as you know, awfully to your cost, and to many other countries in the region. So they still have plenty of arms. The ordinary people of Iran literally just have their fists. How worried are you about the vacuum that has been created by the regime falling?
Well, I think everything will be better. I mean, it's not like, people were asking, what if whatever is coming next is going to be more terrible than what we had? It just can't be. I mean, there is no worse possibility. What happened was Iran is that it was a country-sized Al-Qaeda, a country-sized ISIS, a country-sized Hezbollah. As I was saying, it's a terror organization who took over a country. Now, any other option is a better option. Iran, being this ancient, interesting culture, must find a way within itself, the people of Iran, to find their own Lech Walesa, their own Gandhi, their own Mandela, in order to change the future, their future. The will is there. I mean, they took to the streets even though they knew they're going to be killed. Think of the courage, think of the desperation as well. So I think there is an unbelievable opportunity now, and it needs to, and the people of Iran should take it. We are just trying to create the atmosphere or the conditions that will enable it.
And obviously it is unthinkable that a far worse regime does come in. We've spoken on the programme about the axis of evil, about China and Russia. How far are Israel willing to go to ensure that something worse doesn't take over? Would Israel be willing to put boots on the ground, for example?
Well, how far? Approximately 3,000 kilometers, which we did. I don't think, listen, you're right in saying that changing a regime with airstrikes is probably not going to happen. It happened. It happened maybe in Kosovo, but basically it doesn't happen. I think we understand. I don't think boots on the ground is going to happen because everybody understands this is up to the people of Iran. We have just created the conditions. We took care of, or we are taking care of, what was important to us is just obliterating an existential threat of the nuclear and the ballistic missile programs. So this was part one. But changing the course or the fate of Iran is up to the people of Iran. We have just enabled them to have a fresh start.
But if it did look like they needed support on the ground, as you say, airstrikes can take out the regime, but they can't help grow a new one. If they did look like they needed further help and America were willing to put the boots on the ground, to use that cliched phrase now, would Israel be with them?
Well, of course, we can discuss everything. I'm not sure it's a great idea to discuss it on television, but it needs to be discussed. But I think I'm serious about this. History tells us, and the region above everything else is historical. These are ancient cultures. All the cultures involved are ancient cultures. It tells us it should be up to the people of Iran. And I don't think any future can be curved by foreigners coming from the outside. It should be their decision. It's their decision to make. It's their determination. It's their willingness to change the future of their own children. Right now, as I was saying, we have just created or enabled or created the conditions for a future change in Iran, and now it's up to them.
And Mr. Lapid, just finally, before we let you go, thank you so much for taking so much of your time. Can I just ask you your opinion of the United Kingdom's response, our Prime Minister's initial response yesterday, which neither condemned nor condoned Israel's action?
Well, I think the international community understands this the way it is, which is, on one hand, two great democracies, the United States, of course, and Israel, defending themselves, defending the region against a rogue government or a rogue country that is out of its mind in ways. trying to defend ourselves. And I think we appreciate the fact that the United Kingdom is involved in the air defense mechanism of the whole operation. It is, and deeds are more important than words, and therefore I will settle for what we can have from the United Kingdom at this point.
OK, thank you very much for your time. That's Leader of the Opposition in Israel, Yair Lapid. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much. OK, I could see you nodding along by my side there, Vahid. Vahid Beheshti is still with me, protester, activist, Iranian dissident, and your own cousin was murdered by this regime just a few weeks ago. So thank you so much for coming in to talk. Obviously, this is very, very personal. But you were nodding along to what you heard just now in that interview.
So one other side of me, as you all know it, I am the founder of Iran Front for the Revival of Law and National Sovereignty. The front has been created a year ago, launched in European Parliament and in the House of Lords in UK. So that organization has been founded through the demand of the leaders of different diversities within Iran, ethnic, religious, and political diversity after the day of 66 of my hunger strike, which we managed to become as the only figure in the opposition to be able to unite the whole different groups in opposition on 29th of April 2023.
Because it's such a vast country with many divisions, so you have united that in your...
Then I have some input, because the previous guest stated something, it was really good, how he described it, but one mistake, because I at least spend 6-7 hours of my time every day on Zoom call, on different calls with different leaders in Iran, diversity, because we are very diverse, as you know.
Yes, of course.
But all these diversities, they know themselves first Iranian, then Baluchis, Iranian, then Kurds, Iranian, then Ahwazis, Arab from Ahwaz, Iranian, then Azeris. But the previous guest made one mistake which separate them from each other. This is the narrative of regime. From 47 years ago, he said, if you're not there, the Iran is going to fall apart. The Azeris, they're going to separate themselves, Baluchis. The leader of Baluchis, Molavi Abdul Hamid, the leader of 20 million Sunnis and Baluchis, he stated, we are against any separatism. They're only asking for their rights. And we have it on the point 10 of our 17-point manifesto, the right to self-governance. So the only three things should be under the control of the central government. The rest of the things should be managed by local government. This is not separatism. This is what we are moving toward. But now, as we speak, there is a group created in Iran from different diversities, and are talking to each other, and they are in contact with, I think, as I understand, Trump and Trump administration. I love that point of view of Yair Lapid. As you know, I am the only figure from the Iranian opposition who spoke in the Knesset 2.5 years ago. I addressed the ministers in the Knesset, and in that day, when all the focus only was on Hamas, I stated, when all the media attacked me after that, I said we should not be afraid of attacking the house of Ali Khamenei, the IRGC bases and their nuclear sites, because this is the big elephant in the room and we have to see it. This is the source of all this terrorism. So, yes, we are not asking, and as Iranians from foreign countries, to come and change the regime for us and put someone or some group there. No, we are doing this. We are telling, look, this is a joint action. We need to do it together. There's a common enemy, the common ideology. This is the ideology that destroying all of us. Give us the help that we need, because we cannot do it with bare hand, as you describe it very well. And then we're going to overthrow the regime and establish new secular democratic system based on grounded in law and human rights.
Vahid, just one quick point on this. We have some breaking news to bring you. I just want to ask you this quick thing. We've seen overnight people mourning the murder of the Ayatollah.
Yeah.
There seem to be quite a lot of them. Where do those people come into this?
You have to see, they are very good. They are expert in engineering this footage and give it to you. But don't forget, we have 2% of Iranians are pro-regime. Their salary comes from the regime, and if they don't participate in those ceremonies, they're gonna be punished by the regime. So they have been asked yesterday to come to them, and then they are engineering those images to show it to that's part. They are expert in propaganda. They have their people in academia, in politics, and in everywhere to extend the hands of the propaganda machine.
Okay, Vahid, thank you very much for now. We will come back to you soon. Meanwhile, we have some breaking news to bring you in the last few minutes. Former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has been killed in an airstrike, and that's according to Iranian media reports. The Iranian Revolutionary Guards have said they targeted US aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, in 4 ballistic missiles. And you can see on your screens now a graphic of the US's Abraham Lincoln being moved to the Mediterranean in the last couple of weeks. Okay, that's the breaking news for you there. Just to refresh that, according to reports, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has been killed in an airstrike. That's according to Iranian media reports. Okay, now let's talk to our next guest. That is IDF's spokesperson, Nadav Shashani. Nadav, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can I just get your reaction to events of the last 24 hours, please?
Well, these are historic days. IDF, alongside the U.S. Armed Forces, have carried out an operation against this Iranian terror regime. This is a regime that has been destabilizing the region and the world for the last 45 years. A regime that has vowed daily death to Israel, death to England, death to the USA, death to the West. And they have been acting upon it. And in the last 24 hours, we acted back. And we've had great and historic achievements. The biggest of them is removing Ali Khamenei, who's the main driving force, maybe the world's largest terrorist, main driving force behind all of this terror activity pointed towards the West.
Now, would you describe the attack on Iran by Israel and America as a success so far? Israel has been bombarded, you have lost lives, but this is, so far, it's an ongoing mission, as we understand, but so far you are happy with the results?
Well, first of all, we understand the price of war. And there's a heavy price of war, as we're just looking at the incident in Beit Shemesh, where this terrorist regime has been targeting Israeli civilians, as a strategy on purpose. And the price is large, but we also know what the price of inaction means. And looking at our actions, we see great success on a historic level. We're talking about eliminating 40 of the most important people in the Iranian war regime within 1 minute. This is a strike almost 2,000 kilometers away from Israel. And within 1 minute, we were able to eliminate 40 of the most important people in the Iranian war regime, people who were hiding from us, who knew they were a target. We were able to eliminate all of them within 1 minute.
And where do you go now? What happens going forward?
Well, as you spoke in your previous interview, the Iranian regime is a regime that has been promoting terror for many years in a large country and a large regime, tenfold the size of Israel. And there's still a lot of military assets, a lot of weapons they possess. We saw the catastrophic damage of one attack in Beit Shemesh. We're seeing it right now on the screen. That's one ballistic missile. They still have hundreds of those ballistic missiles. Some of them reach Europe even. So this is a threat we need to keep pushing. Even though we were able to eliminate their leadership, we still need to make sure those missiles are not pointed towards Israel, towards American assets, towards the West. That we are able to remove those threats and make sure that this lunatic regime, this murderous regime, bloodthirsty regime that is targeting civilians, does not have the means to do that anymore.
I mean, Nadav, I have to say, it's been a bloodthirsty terrorist regime that has been butchering its own citizens for many years. Why now?
Well, we've learned a very expensive lesson on October 7th. We've learned that if an enemy says they want to kill us and is acting and promoting all the steps to do it, we need to act against them. But more importantly, we've seen recently very, very concerning steps. They have rehabilitated their stockpile of missiles. They were pushing, concealing, and pushing deeper underground their nuclear system to promote it again. Just in the last year, they spent almost $1 billion for proxies in the Middle East. So they were moving forward in a dangerous pace. The Iranian regime was planning, and not just planning, operating to annihilate the state of Israel, and we had to act first.
And what did you say, Nadav, to those that say the actions of Israel and America are illegal?
Well, I think those people need to take a lesson in the rules of engagements and international law. Israel is acting against legitimate military targets who are possessing weapons to kill Israelis and Americans, who have the blood of thousands of innocent people, including of their own people, on their hands. And Israel conducted, this is an accurate strike on historic measures, almost 2,000 kilometers away from Israel, pinpointing, finding those terrorists with blood on their hands, those terrorists who are planning to carry out attacks against us, is part of a war machine. And it's important to say, this war didn't begin today. The Iranian regime has been fighting against us, publicly and not publicly, for years. We're responding now. This is what this is.
Now, obviously, Nadav, this isn't just for Israel. This is for a global safety, would you say? I mean, we have seen in the United Kingdom, and we've certainly seen in Australia and many other countries around the world, how far the tentacles of radical Islamism triggered by Iran have spread. How much safer do you think the world will be with this regime taken down?
Well, first of all, there's more work to be done. We need to deepen our achievements against this terrorist regime. But this, we've just seen in the last 24 hours how dangerous this terror regime. They're firing all across the Middle East. They're firing against multiple countries, I believe more than 10 countries. This is a threat for global stability, this regime, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that we are diminishing their capabilities as much as we can. And we don't take lightly the price of war. We see the price of it right now, but we also understand that this is a regime that if we don't act against it now, would act against us on a different time in a much larger scale.
And what would you say to the reaction from various governments around the world, but in particular the UK government, which hasn't exactly condoned what Israel has done? It hasn't condemned it, but it hasn't condoned it.
Well, I can speak on the military level. We have great coordination with a lot of militaries. The British Army is one of them. But it's important for us to differentiate between right and wrong. It's important for us to have a clear conscience of this Iranian regime, a murderous regime that is calling death to Israel, death to America, death to England. This is something they're saying, and it's okay for us to say this is something we will not accept. This is something we will act against, because these Iranian terrorists, they understand only one thing, and they understand power. They don't understand words. They don't understand the diplomacy. They understand power. They were promoting a process of diplomacy while secretly pushing forward this plan to destroy Israel and other countries, Western countries. This is the regime we're facing, and it's important to be honest with ourselves of who we're facing.
And how far are Israel willing to go with helping the new Iran rebuild itself? I mean, are you willing to put boots on the ground? I keep using that phrase, but I can't think of a better way to say it. You know, airstrikes very rarely change regimes. It often takes people on the ground helping rebuild. How far do you think Israel would be willing to go in that?
Well, first of all, I'm a military spokesperson. I speak about the military threats and the perceived threats.
But that would involve the military, wouldn't it?
How we need to act against those threats, and not so much about a regime change. But I can tell you one thing, and I can tell this also on a personal level. I'm from Iranian descent. My family ran away from Iran, and the people of Israel are not in a war with the people of Iran. The Israeli government is not in a war with the people of Iran. We are fighting this regime that has vowed to kill us. We're protecting ourselves. That's what it is. We are not, and we've said this all the way from the bottom to the top to our prime minister, we are not at war with the people of Iran.
Nadav, that's interesting. Do you still have family in Iran?
No, I don't have family in Iran anymore. They moved, it was many years ago.
Okay, thank you very much for your time today. Very good to talk to you. That's IDF spokesperson Nadav Shoshani. Thank you very much. And obviously, please do let me know what you're thinking on this Sunday lunchtime, gbnews.com/your site. I appreciate I haven't read as many comments out as I usually do, but obviously there's lots of live breaking lines coming into the studio. So let's get another take on the story now. Joining me now is Daily Mail special correspondent and author of Nuclear Iran, The Birth of an Atomic State, David Patriarkaras. David, thank you very much for joining us today. Your reaction to what's happened over the last 24 hours?
Well, Dawn, it's extraordinary. The Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is finally dead. It is a huge symbolic action. I think we need to understand what it means and what it does not mean. What it means is that one of the longest serving and most brutal dictators in global politics is at an end, which is good. It does not mean, however, that the Iranian regime is at an end. What we are seeing now with the death of Khamenei, we must understand, is the beginning of a process. If the Israelis and the Americans are to have the success that they are talking about, what needs to come now is a further decapitation, degrading of the regime's military capabilities, its capabilities of oppression and butchery. And then the big question, what is going to replace it? Dawn, you and I have talked about this before. It is not enough that the Ayatollahs fall. What will replace them? And that is the big question now.
And how difficult do you think it will be for the people of Iran who aren't armed? I mean, the remains of the regime are, as we're clearly seeing, quite heavily armed. We're still seeing missiles and drones flying into surrounding states and countries. How easy is it going to be for people that are unarmed, just fighting with their fists, to establish and overthrow the remnants of that regime?
Well, this is the big question. The answer is it's going to be very difficult. I have said constantly that the opposition, the democratic, or let's say not democratic, let's just say the people opposition, the popular opposition, these are young people, old people, men, women, students, people in work, they are unarmed. And they are, I think, the hope for Iran. They are where you see a sane Iran, a pro-Western Iran emerging. What is most likely now is that some form of change, if it comes, will come from within the regime. Now, if you look at what Donald Trump is doing and what he's saying, he's offered them a deal. He's saying, come to us, you'll get immunity. It's almost like the Venezuela playbook. If you remember, Marco Rubio was reaching out to Venezuela's vice president to make a deal with her. So when they took Maduro, there was a smooth succession. But Iran is a different case, not least because if senior Revolutionary Guard figures are going to make a deal, what's going to happen? Are they going to be slotted in to replace the Ayatollah? These are people who have oppressed their people, have oppressed Iranians, have oppressed those Iranians on the street for decades. It's a very, very different scenario. And I think what worries me is that Trump thinks he could just make a deal and reproduce the Venezuela playbook here. I'm not so sure.
And David, bringing it back home to the UK, what do you make of our government's reaction?
I mean, look, this is typical Keir Starmer. It's just hapless, okay? On the one hand, he didn't condemn the strikes, but at the same time, he distanced himself from them. So all that happened is he annoyed everybody who's rabidly against the strikes, so the left of his party, and annoyed everybody who believes that they're the correct thing. It's just typical. He managed to alienate everyone, and he just starts. He starts with, this had nothing to do with us. Cowardice, timidity, indecisiveness. It's just Keir Starmer all over, and the sooner this man is gone, the better for everyone.
Strong words, David, as always, which is why we love talking to you. David, how much of a threat was this regime to the UK? We know that we have had, obviously, Islamist terror attacks in the UK for many decades now. How much of a threat was it to people in the UK?
Dawn, it was a clear and present threat. And this is something the Israelis say, and they're right. This idea that the Americans and Israelis struck them unprovoked is nonsense. Look, they have been attacking Israel on many fronts for decades. And look, in Britain, we have a serious problem with the extremist Iranian government institutions. I wrote a big investigation. When I went around parts of central London, I called it Little Tehran. There's a picture of me, actually, Dawn, standing in front of one of the institutions. Unfortunately, I think I look a bit like a radical preacher inside it. But the fact remains is these buildings are all over London. And these buildings, Dawn, got money during COVID. Our government gave them furlough money. Please understand that Iranian agents have tried to kill dissident journalists on the streets of London. IRGC affiliated organisations are penetrating student politics. We've seen videos in the IRGC school of kids being, taught to sing songs praising the Ayatollahs and celebrating martyrdom. If people are tempted to believe that this is a faraway conflict in a land of which we know nothing, they should disabuse themselves of this disillusion. The Iranian threat is clear, it is present, and it is over here in Britain.
Which brings me to one person we did see at the protests in London yesterday supporting the regime and anti-Israel and America taking the action they did. And that is the deputy leader of the Green Party, Mohsin Ali. As we know, David, they've just done incredibly well in the by-election in Manchester. He was actually at this protest. Why is a British politician at a rally supporting a regime that openly declares death to the UK?
I mean, it's absolutely astonishing, but unfortunately, it's equally and depressingly unsurprising. The Green Party is becoming a haven for extremists, for Islamists, and for cranks. So it really was unsurprising to see him there. But we need to understand this. People need to understand what we're dealing with the Green Party. I believe elements of the Green Party pose a clear and present danger to the national security of Britain. And you said it yourself. Why is a now mainstream politician celebrating, or at least trying to sort of prop up a regime at this time that openly avows death to the UK and that, I repeat, has again sponsored terror on our own shores? It's unacceptable and it must be stamped out.
David, the Green Party would say they're a party led by a gay Jewish man. I mean, how can they be supporting Islamists?
Well, they very much are. I mean, this is a kind of disingenuous argument. They are. Let's see how long that holds. By the way, if we're talking about Iran, I think people in the Green Party should take a look at what happened to the Iranian leftists during the 1970s who allied themselves with the Ayatollah Khomeini. It didn't end well for them, and it won't end well for the supposed progressives in the Green Party today.
David, always strong words. Thank you very much. That's David Patriarchos there. Thank you very much for joining us today. OK, some more breaking news for you in the last few minutes. Oh, no, sorry, no, we will get back to that. No, yeah, we are. Sorry, there's so many breaking lines coming into the studio this afternoon. Former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has been killed in an airstrike, and that's according to Iranian media reports. And other breaking news, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards have said they have targeted US aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, with 4 ballistic missiles. We will actually bring you more on that as and when we have it, and we will be joined soon by Will Godley, who is on the street at a protest, Iranian celebrating that the regime has been overthrown. Let's go back to Vahid Beheshti, who's in the studio with me now. Vahid, you've listened to lots of opinions. You've been there, you've lived this, you've lost relatives. What is it like now for the people on the streets of Iran? I mean, we've heard stories that they're stockpiling food, that they're uncertain, but we've also seen them celebrating.
They were waiting for this for years. They are willing to go through whatever to get rid of this regime. Look, in the previous conversation that we had, I described the ideology of the regime. So the regime has got nothing to do with Iran. It's got an ideology that expands them to expand the ideology not to the region, to Europe, to America, and wherever they can. They believe, this is what they said. Prophet Muhammad wasn't successful in his mission. We are carrying a successful mission and better than him. And we cannot let go of this government. And as the previous guest described it very well, they have nowhere to go. These are I don't think the situation and the scenario of Venezuela will occur here, because these are the people, when I'm talking about the IRGC members, besieged members, they are the murderers of this nation. How can they deal with people? So, of course, okay, if they bow down to President Trump, what they're going to do to their own people? So these people are waiting for the moment. For example, this is one example. When they sent the picture of my cousin Arash Beheshti 8 weeks ago, it was 1:30 in the morning, and they said Arash is dead. I was trying to call the other person who sent the family member who sent the picture to me to just talk to her, to just give her some strength and all. I was surprised when I called her. I called her and I said, okay, listen, this is a war. I said, what are you talking about? She said to me back, what are you talking about? We are preparing ourselves for the strike of America. We're not going to go back then. We have nothing to lose. So yeah, of course they're celebrating. They are preparing themselves. And I said there's a good spirit in Iran now. At least America. We have the right people in White House. We have the right people in Israel who understand the ideology of this regime. And unlike our government, they don't think this is not the problem. This is the problem because this is the ideology which acting against humanism, against human being, against Western civilization. How can you be immune from this ideology? Because it doesn't matter if you don't do anything about them, they're not going to be neutralized against you. They're going to come forward. They're going to come forward. The only way, as the IDF spokesman described it very well, the only way to deal with this regime is to destroy them.
What do you think the regime that hasn't been killed, and many of the top commanders in it do seem to have been killed now, what do you think should happen to those that are captured, that maybe hand themselves over? Should they face some sort of criminal trial?
Yeah, they have to, of course, they have to. We shouldn't, we have to put an end to this death execution from our point of view, but it all depends to our Constitution Assembly with the first draft of our Constitution, which we will have. So, but I think we should put an end to this death execution and follow the human rights charters, international human rights charters. They have to face the international courts, and then we see how they're going to deal with it.
Vahid, thank you very much for now. We'll be coming back to you. OK, some more breaking news coming into the newsroom for you. The US military says it has sunk an Iranian ship and is currently sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. That's breaking news coming into the newsroom. US military say have sunk an Iranian ship and it's currently sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. It's that breaking news all the time coming in, so do keep with me, gbnews.com/your-say. Joining me now is the Deputy Director of General at Israel's Claret Health Services, the biggest health provider in Israel, which runs 14 hospitals. That's Professor Ran Balaser. Ran, thank you very much for joining us. Just reaction to what's going on in Israel at the moment. We know the bombardment continues. We've spoken to many people that have been literally in their bomb shelters now for 24 hours. Can you bring us up to date on what's happening, please?
So these are very challenging times for us here in Israel. Missile attacks took the lives of over 10 civilians and many dozens more are injured. No, in these settings, we, as the largest healthcare system in Israel, we have a huge responsibility. Khalid basically serves as the medical shield of 5 million Israelis, providing them with primary care up to the hospital care and ICU. And we have a daily task to ensure that even under fire, more than half of Israel's population can have a doctor on their side. And these are for needs that related and unrelated to the conflict. So that is not easy when missiles are falling and it's very difficult to commute. But still, you know, while the missiles are flying in the operating room, there's no conflict here. You will see Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, all working together as one family to save lives. So this is the modus operandi of the Israeli healthcare system, and this makes us very proud and hopeful, even in these very difficult days.
And what sort of injuries are you seeing coming into the hospitals?
You know, there's everything from the very severe direct hits by recent missiles up to mild injuries caused by running to take shelter, and ending with mental health issues that are quite prevalent. You know, the whole issue of mental health is sometimes underscored, but you have to understand that Israel has been under attack continuously now for since October 2023, and the relative impact mentally of these continuous issues and basically the massacre of October 2023 has created a huge mental health burden. In one of our recent surveys that we've done, 1 in 5 adult Israelis suffers from severe dysfunction associated with mental health issues. So this is the impact that this continuous attacks have on the mental health of the population. And it is also part of our responsibility to respond to it. And we do it in very different ways, both reactive and proactive.
And Professor, how optimistic are you now that going forward, now the regime does seem to have had at least the head of it cut off, that there will be a bit more peace coming to Israel?
I try to speak within my domain of expertise. This by far is not, but at the bottom of the Pandora box lies the hope, and there's always hope for a better future. I think that the actions that have been taken by Israel and the United States in the last day and a half has been of tremendous hope for the entire region. I think that in many senses, Iran was the source of all evil. That really was inflicting so much damage both to us but to all of their neighboring countries. And I do hope that we're going to see a different future looking forward. But, in terms of what we need to do as a health system, we need to provide care to the population. We have been trying to fortify our hospitals to withstand missile attacks. One of our hospitals has been hit in the previous conflict with Iran, and lives were saved almost by miracle, as some of those places were evacuated just before that. So now we came to this event, to this conflict, with creating hospitals underground. I'm speaking with you now from the 4th floor below one of Israel's main hospitals, Rabin Medical Center of Talit, and on this -4th floor where there used to be a parking lot, we've created a fully functional hospital with respirators and ICUs and dialysis centers, and all of the patients that have been just yesterday up in the ground in the hospital wards have now been put down with a matter of a day, and now everybody is safe in here. And those that were not as complex, and that we could put them back into their homes where they have safe places to stay at home, we actually created a hospital at home for all of these patients. Right now, we have hundreds of patients at home getting top-notch care that includes respirators and oxygen brought to them and staff coming over. So these kinds of advanced innovation in provision of care has been really helpful for us in these tough times. You can add to that all of the aspect of digital health and virtual care. We have 24/7 provision of primary care, of pediatrics, of mental health services, all through virtual care with virtual questionnaires and digital therapeutics and self-help tools and bots. And all of these help us do surge capacity in an event that is of immense proportions, and nobody knows how long it is going to last. So we need to be prepared for every contingency, and I think we are.
That's quite incredible when you consider the problems we have with the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, that you have done all that so much. And how is morale amongst the staff, the fact that they are now working underground, but you've achieved it so fast?
So, one of the key things in preparing for emergencies is drilling and preparing. So this has what's happening right now has been drilled over and over again and again in the last few months. That helps a lot with helping staff to contain this. And I have to tell you, this is not easy in any sense, not in the mental and not in the physical. It's very crowded. There's infection control aspects you have to control for when it's so condensed. And also, it's non-trivial for staff to be below ground for so long, taking care of people around the clock, and the noise. You have to see it to believe it. But I think our staff has one purpose in mind, and that is saving lives. That's why they came to do what they're doing, and they're doing an amazing work out there right now, saving lives day in and day out. And I know for sure that we'll be able to provide the best care in these problematic setting for as long as it will take.
Thank you very much. That's Professor Ran Barlater. Thank you very much for joining us there. Quite astonishing what they have done in Israel. I mean, obviously, you know, when you think about the problems we have with the NHS here, and they've literally just upended a hospital and built it underground. It's just quite incredible. OK, joining us now is Middle East analyst and lecturer at the College of International Security Affairs, Michael Prejeant. Michael, thank you very much for joining us today. Firstly, your take on the last 24 hours.
Well, thank you for having me. The last 24 hours it's historical, but it needs to continue. We saw the 12-day airstrike campaign that Israel conducted over Tehran, where they owned the daytime skies. That was significant. That was a 12-day operation where the majority of their top leadership was killed back in June. That leadership was replaced, and in the last 24 hours, it was killed again. But it needs to be sustained. There are so many tiers of qualified people to take over these institutions that could restore the regime, that the air campaign needs to take place, and we need to start working with people on the ground to identify other targets and then start thinking about arming different groups that we can that we trust to be able to carry out a regime change on their own, a regime change from the Iranian people.
How is obviously the big question of the last 24 hours is how easy is it going to be? The regime has been beheaded, but the ordinary Iranian people, they're not armed, they're not organised. How difficult is it going to be?
I'm a veteran of the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, and a lot of people are saying we don't want another Iraq or Afghanistan, and I don't want that either. We don't want to do this with U.S. military. We want to be able to provide intelligence to a trusted group on the ground that can go after, you know, senior leadership, that can go after the leadership of the besieged, you know, the civilian clothes wearing terrorists that basically, you know, make people disappear in Tehran. How easy is it going to be? It's going to be very hard, but it's a nice problem to have. The regime is going to ground. Israel is flying daytime, low-flying operations over Tehran. That is a huge symbolic message to the people on the ground. The resistance is getting ready to start taking more territory, start taking more institutions, but they're worried about a tweet from the President of the United States saying, okay, that's it. You know, pay attention, you know, stop. And if that happens, this is all for nothing.
And that can't afford to happen, can it? Thank you, Michael, very much. That's a lecturer at College of International Security Affairs, Michael Prejeant there. Thank you very much for joining us. OK, now I think we can go live to Will Godley, who is at a Free Iran rally in central London for us. Will.
Dawn, yeah, good afternoon to you. It's an incredibly loud rally. In fact, thousands of people gathering behind where we are. And now flags are flying, Iranian flags, American flags and Israeli flags. As people have been dancing, singing to music and celebrating. We've come a little bit further back, so you might have a chance of hearing what we're going to say. I can speak now to Nihat Gabani, the organiser. Is this a rally? Is this a protest? You told me it's a celebration with a big smile on your face. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling really well. I actually get phone call yesterday from my sister. After 4 years, I didn't have a connection with my family since I'm coming to UK. But yesterday, my sister called me and said, listen, US finally hit IRGC and Islamic Republic. Just be safe. You know, she tell me be safe in UK, but she doesn't think about herself in Iran, which is, you know, make me really upset about them. You know, the Iranian people right now in Iran, they are super happy because since 1979, really, we try really hard to change regime, but doesn't happen. Right now, we get help from US and Israel. That's why we are happy and we are excited. And we are waiting for Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi to announce to actually Iranian people go to the street and take over all the, you know, the government buildings. But in same time, we are celebrating today here. But this is the beginning of our actually fight. The UK government, when they don't stand with us, when they don't supporting Iranian people, we don't want to, you know, second Iraq. If you have a leader, we have a leader right now, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, if you're supporting him, you can actually have your safe things also as a actually UK government. If you have a good friendship, relationship with Iran in future, you have to show your support right now, because the Iranian will not forget if you stand with us right now.
Amazing. Well, Niak, thank you for talking to us on GB News. I can see your smile. I'll let you get back to celebrating as your message from outside Downing Street, hopefully, you hope, will be heard by the Prime Minister here today, as they're calling, not only celebrating, but calling for closer relationships from the UK to the people of Iran.
Can I add something?
Very
I have
quickly,
to,
in 10 seconds.
Yeah, I have to.
Oh, I think we've lost Will there. OK, Will will be back throughout the afternoon at that rally. I still have Vahid in the studio with me. The most interesting thing from what that interview was, he phoned his sister in Iran and he was concerned about her safety, and she said to him, be safe in the UK.
Because of the level of the infiltration of the regime's agent in here, and this is well known in Iran, how UK become the second home of Ayatollahs. That's the problem.
How safe do you feel here?
No, none. Every night that I sleep, I think tomorrow's, if I'm going to have tomorrow, it's going to be bonus. So that's how we feel, because if we know the agents of the regimes are freely acting here, and we are not prescribing IRGC.
No, we're not. But I just want to interrupt you there briefly. We've just got some more breaking news coming in for you. America says 3 US service members have been killed in action as part of Iran operation. Sent.com. Yeah, that just to confirm, that is 3 US service members have been killed in action as part of the Iran action. That's obviously sad news. Vahid, let's come back to you very quickly. Final word, we are running out of time, unfortunately. You don't feel safe in the UK. What is your future? Are you going to go back to Iran? You have family in Iran now. If the regime settles down, is that what you plan to do?
So, of course, we have to, for rebuilding the country, we have to, as I said, all the diverse group. We are planning to get back. There is a big communication now going on between these different diversities, and I think they are coming together, all these different diversities, to negotiate not around an individual, not around another ideology, not around vague promises, but through concrete guarantees that all diversities play a decisive role from the day one. So that's what we are doing. That's where we are agreed with different groups. I think there is a great there's a great hope for Iran, and this is what I'm going to finish with this. This is what I have said in Israeli parliament 2.5 years ago in Knesset. I have said, just close your eyes in end of my speech and imagine what we can build. The Iranian nation, great Iranian nation, great Israelis nation, and the whole region together without this evil regime and without Ali Khamenei. Now, Ali Khamenei eliminated. Many of the top commanders and the top officials of the regime eliminated. We got a long way to go, but we are filled with hope and motivation, and we will do that.
Vahid, thank you so much. Vahid Beheshti, thank you very much for joining me today. Just to reiterate that breaking news for you, sadly, 3 US service members have been killed in action as part of the operation in Iran. We will have all the breaking news for you, much more to come on GB News. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon. I've been Dawn Neeson, but don't go anywhere. There will be much more coming up. I think Nana Akweer is coming up next, and she will have Charlie Peters with her with all your breaking news. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon, and stay safe. That's all I can say. See you soon.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benevan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m.